Zoom recording, resuming recording. Now we're actually recording. Hi, everyone. This course is an opportunity not just to remember and record our dreams, but actually find some meaning and understanding in community, just like the rabbis of the Talmud did. Someone asked the name of the school. So one is Kohenet, the Hebrew Priestess Institute, which was around from '06 to 23. And this is my cat. He came to participate. And also the School of Images, and that's where I do most of my dream work studying. And I can provide links to those as well. We're gonna have an opportunity now. I'm gonna call on you just to say your name, one thing about where you are. It could be the name of your town, it could be the closest river. You don't have to say exactly where you are. Yeah, just say your name and just like one sentence about what brings you to this class, and then we'll jump into the text. And I'm going to call on Doreen, and also please tell me if I pronounce your name right.
Yes, that's how you pronounce my name.
Great.
My name is Shireen Kravitz. I live in Bellingham, Washington. And the topic really uh, appeals to me because I just wanted a different way to study the Torah that's, mystical, more mystical.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm going to now pass it to Gogo.
Let me unmute. Thanks. Um, Hi, my name is Gogo Lids. Sorry, my hair is wet. Um, it's because I live in South Pasadena, California, and it's still morning here. Um, and I wanted to take this class because I have a lot of really vivid dreams, and sometimes I think I'm getting like some messages through the dreams. I had a really, really vivid dream on the week of the Joseph stream passage this year that was like felt like a warning because I was starting a new medication that was giving me some side effects when I wasn't sure I was supposed to be on it, and I got like a weird message with animals that was a lot like Joseph's dream in the passage. I mean, yeah, the dream with the it was the passage. It was the sorry, the weekly um the weekly draw the weekly
Like the Torah portion of that week was about Joseph's dream.
yeah, sorry. I have a lot of health problems. So I am a lot of times like almost like in and out of dreams a lot. I have to dream. I'm always like a lot of times in a dreamlike state because I have a lot of chronic illnesses. And so I wanted to take this class because I wanted to be able to interpret more of my dreams. And when the parasha was, it was the week of Joseph in Egypt interpreting the Pharaoh's dreams with the cows. And I got a dream about I was in the pharmacy and there were
Well, don't tell us the whole dream. Just tell us a
ads,
teeny.
right? And it was I don't
Yeah.
want to tell you the whole dream because that's so boring. And but anyway, I don't want to bore you guys to tears. Anyway, it seemed like it was a really clear message and it related to the parasha
Yeah.
and to like go off this medication. So I thought that was really cool. And I've gotten a lot of other weird dream messages.
Amazing.
And
Amazing. I'm gonna ask you to pause, and then we're gonna definitely come back to
sorry,
that.
I yacked your guys' ear off, but I like it that it's a small class.
Yeah. And by the way, Julian just wrote, I'm not sure how a dream can be boring. One of the things actually that I'm going to talk about in recording and remembering our dreams is actually how important it is to write down the whole dream, even if we think it's boring, because
Yeah.
sometimes that's actually where, and actually oftentimes, that's where the big messages are in like the little things like the color of the paint behind the person that you're talking to, for example. So
Interesting.
I hope that we get to those places. Julian has studied with me before. Julian, do you want to introduce yourself? You can also pass if you prefer.
Sure.
Go for it.
Um, Thank you. So, Julian from Southend in the UK. Curious about the dreams in the books of the Bible. I don't remember that except for Joseph. That's what I was going to say. I'm afraid I can't think of anything else.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you so much, Julian. And we'll pass it to Robin.
Hi, I'm Robin. I live in Ossining, New York, along the Hudson River. I have studied dream working before with Rav Jill Hammer, and I've read her book Under Torah. And I have been keeping a dream journal for more than 20 years, and I have a dream chavruta partner she's in Australia on the other side of the world from me, but whenever she has a specific dream, she'll record a message and I'll dream her dream and send her back a message and vice versa. So we've been doing a dream chavruta for about 5 years now. And I'm also a Jewish educator. I teach teenagers and adults at my synagogue in Mount Kisco, New York.
Amazing. I love hearing all the different places people are coming from and the practices that you already have. And just want to name, like, if you don't yet have a dream practice or you're not even sure how you would start, like, we're going to talk about that before the end of today's session. And we're going to get like really nerdy on some of these texts. And I'll pass it to you, Susan.
Sorry, I was having trouble unmuting. My name is Susan Kaplow. I live on the Upper West Side of New York City. I love Ossining and Mount Kisco. And I'm a visual artist. A lot of my art has come from dreams or portions or a visual from a dream. In the last 6 months or so, I've been diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, and I've had a lot of dreams that relate to my illness. And I thought it would be very helpful to go more deeply into the dreams to understand what my unconscious mind or what I don't know if it's my unconscious mind or it's Hashem or it's, who it is trying to tell me. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Thanks, everyone, for those introductions. I know we have at least one person who's going to be late. So just when she comes, we'll just welcome her. Thank you, especially those who are like squeezing this in their work day. And I know we have some different time zones. I should have said also, I'm in Brooklyn and anyone, and I have one of my artists, I do artist coaching. One of my clients has a show in Mount Kisco this week. So I'll put that in the chat at the end and make sure you know about it. I'm like, why was I just thinking about going to Mount Kisco? Okay, great. Well, hi everyone. It's really, this is just my dream. It is my dream. I don't say that lightly to be teaching this and to be learning all together. I will just remind folks, I think you all saw this in the email. Some of you are signed up for the full 8 weeks of the course, and some of you are taking today to decide if you want to take the whole course. And so just a note that if you are not signed up for all 8 weeks, that you'll get a bunch of reminders saying, please sign up for all 8 weeks so that we can get you in. We have a sliding scale and it's very easy to sign up. You can also stay after. I'll also be here for 15 minutes after the class if you have any questions about that. And hi, Sarah, welcome. We just went around and just said like 1 or 2 sentences of where we're zooming in from and one reason why we're taking the course. You're welcome to add that or pass for now.
I'm Sarah. I'm zooming in from Washington, D.C. I am interested in my dreams and my nightmares, and I know Shamirah from Jerusalem.
Yay. Okay, amazing. All right, everyone. So what we're going to do is first, I'm just going to give a general overview of what we're doing over these 8 weeks. Each class is 75 minutes. I'll always hang around at the end if folks need a little bit of extra if there's like a question we didn't answer, or folks need a little extra one-on-one support. And if something comes up for you that I think might not be appropriate for the whole class, and that could either be because something's like very personal or something is like overly psychological or dangerous, I might ask that we talk after, or support you in finding someone who can support you. I'm not a psychiatrist or a social worker, but I really, really believe in the power of these dreams to be, of working with our dreams to be healing, though not, but not from the perspective of a certified medical professional. But I do have lots of referrals that I can give you. Mostly we're going to be nerding out on some Talmud and also these spiritual practices. And I will be encouraging folks to keep a dream journal. In the second half of class today, I'm going to be giving some really, really specific instructions of how to write down your dreams. For some of you, it's going to be super helpful and straightforward, and you're going to be like, oh, this makes so much sense. And for some of you, it might be really, really different from how you're currently doing it. And I'll just ask you to like kind of take a chance and try on this style. It'll make it easier for when we do have an opportunity to share out loud each of our dreams, if we're all using the same method for writing them down. And again, I'll do that in the second half. A lot of the course is actually just reading passages in the Talmud, reading what the Talmud says about how the rabbis would sit around and tell each other their dreams and how they would react to them, or as my teacher Catherine says, how they would open them. We're actually really careful not to use the word interpret in my school of learning. There's an idea that, sometimes we talk about how like translation is interpretation, and that to say some things even though as Jews also we're like multiple interpretations, like we use that phrase all the time. But in Dreamwork, there's kind of this fear that if I say, well, the interpretation of the dream is, then that kind of closes the dream and doesn't leave space for multiple views and multiple understandings. One of the passages that I think we'll see today, if not today, then next week, is that this one rabbi, this famous story of this one rabbi who came to his council, there were 70 interpretations of his dream, and all 70 of them came true. And so part of what we want to do is leave space for multiple interpretations, multiple views, and also for the dreamer to be able to say what does and doesn't resonate. Again, both this week and next week, we're not going to yet be actually opening the dreams. We're just going to be talking about the methodology, and also something that's actually when I do smaller groups is very difficult, which is just remembering them and just recording them in a way that that we can bring them to other people. I'll just pause there. Again, we're going to go to the text in a moment, but are there any like lingering questions, or you could say hopes and dreams about the course that would just be helpful to address in this moment, like that you're just kind of sitting with, that you're like, oh, I thought it was going to be more of this, or like, can you help me understand a word you said? I'll just pause in case there are a couple of questions. Okay, amazing. So far, so good. Okay. So we're going to go to the text. We have this beautiful comment here from Gogo, Mochin de Katnu to Mochin de Gadlut, from small mind to expanded mind. Yeah, and there's this idea that we're always going from the klal, the prat to the klal to the prat. We're going back and forth between open and specific. And it's funny. I asked my teacher Catherine many times, like, what is Kabbalistic about this process? Because every time I ask you what's the source of these practices, she either says they're from her, she's a mystic. I mean, she's also a psychologist, but she's a mystic. They're from her teacher, who I'll speak about more, Madame Colette Muscat, or they're from the Kabbalistic line where her teacher learned from her teacher, going all the way back to Isaac the Blind, and who was going all the way back to the Talmud. And so then, of course, again, I said, what's Kabbalistic about this? And what she usually says is, well, first of all, she gives me a different answer every time because she's a Kabbalist and she's a mystic and not intellectual. But a big part of it has to do with the capacity to receive. And so I already heard a couple of people say, I think it was Gogo, was like, I'm getting messages from my dreams. And that if we think of the word Kabbalah, literally meaning to receive, that actually the thing that's most Kabbalistic about these practices is that we are allowing channels to open and that we are receiving information through our dreams. So in a moment, we're going to turn to some nerdy stuff, some text-based stuff. We will look at some modern writings. And then, yeah. So Gogo asked a question in the chat: is this a good prayer, blessing recite after a confusing dream? We will get to that. There's different versions of it, and there's different. I have different recommendations based on a couple of different things, but in general, I'll say for the 8 weeks that we're together in this class, just after having a confusing dream, saying to yourself, "It was a good dream." And if you can, saying in front of 3 people, having them say, "It was a good dream, it was a good dream, it was a good dream," that's enough. That prayer is like the long version of that. And the idea that any dream is a good dream because it's information. It's information you didn't have before. So that's my short answer. And yeah, feel free, folks. Some folks love the chat, with these Zoom classes. They're like, every time they have a thought or a question, they love the chat. And some folks are like, the chat is too much. I'm overwhelmed. I'm confused. Just ignore it. I'll tell you if something important is there. And if there's too much happening in the chat, I might pause it, or I might ignore it until it's relevant. But until then, feel free to type in the chat to me or to each other. All right, so we're going to start. You can see I'm sharing my screen over here. We're going to start with a bracha, with a blessing. And this blessing comes from my teacher, Rav Kohenet Ila, also known as Rabbi Jill Hammer. And this is a moment to center in. I love saying blessings. I say blessings over my food. I've got this new shirt the other day. I said a little Shefianu on this shirt. And so it's a nice moment to say, okay, we are talking about opening dreams. And again, we're going to talk a lot more about what do we mean by opening. So we're going to say this blessing, and feel free to join me in the Hebrew or the English, or you can say Amen at the end. And as someone who often conjugates all of my blessings into the feminine, if you'd rather conjugate it into the masculine or something else, please do. That is welcome. Brucha at Shekhinah Eloteinu Ruach Haolam Potachat Sha'arei Chalomot. Blessed is the presence, our Shekhinah of the universe, who opens the gates of dreaming. Okay, here we go. Okay, Amen, Amen, Amen. Okay, here we go. So, Chalom, Halam, this word, Chet Lamed Mem. By the way, I'm curious, of everyone here, how many people are familiar with Sefaria? This, our source sheet today is in Sefaria. So, okay, everyone or almost everyone, amazing. So just to name, I'm not going to do a whole amazing. So I think everyone. So just to note, I'm very intentional about putting all of our handouts in Sefaria. That way, if you see something and you're like, ooh, what is that? Like, what? I want to know more about that. Everything you can click on. So it's like, I want to see more about, like, well, what is the BDB? I'll just tell you, it's a very nerdy biblical dictionary. It stands for Brown Driver and Brakes. But if you just I just really want to know what the BDB is, you can click on it. You can see the entry here. You can click on about this text, and now you're learning what the BDB is. So sometimes in class, you just want to get the minimum and follow along. But sometimes maybe after you're doing some review and you're like, what is that dictionary? Should I look up other things in that dictionary? and in that way it gives you a sense on it. So just to name this word, halam is the Hebrew word for dream. We have it both as a verb, just like in English, halamti, and we have it as a noun. And sometimes there's some puns between halam, fet lamed mem, and or halom, and lechem, the word for bread, lamed chet mem, because it's kind of like flipping the letters, or the word milchama, which is the word for war. It has the same letters, but in a different order. So there's kind of some fun things about that. And there's a big question throughout the Bible, and we already heard the example of Joseph, that it is dreaming, like basically what is dreaming? And is dreaming always prophecy? Where do dreams come from? We're going to be thinking about these things and looking at these things. But the short answer is that if you look at all the different dreams in the Bible, it's inconsistent. Sometimes the dreams are very clearly just a way for God talking to the person, or maybe actually the person wasn't even asleep. They just had a prophetic experience. Anyways, we're going to start by actually reading this passage from Rabbi Haviva Ner David. So in this class, I try really hard to go back and forth between quoting modern sources, especially when I can, non-cis men, and their insight on dreams, and then also looking at the Talmud. So I'd like to open by quoting my teacher, Rabbi Haviva Ner David. She's a rabbi based in the north of Israel, at a kibbutz, Hanaton, and we're gonna ask if anyone would like to read the first two paragraphs here, where it says "growing up."
I can read.
Thanks.
Growing up, I never paid much attention to my dreams. Dreams were something to shake off. Mostly they felt like mere residue of the past day's experience and therefore not worthy of attention. If they were frightening, it was best to forget them. The same with disturbing dreams and anxiety-laden dreams, like those before a standardized test about missing the bus, sleeping late, forgetting my pencils, and trying to get to the testing center but not making it. Other dreams felt shameful and also best forgotten.
Okay, I'm actually gonna have you pause there. Let's just pause. Like, show of hands. Does this resonate? You know, certain dreams, busy dreams, best forgotten, or any, just like people want to do a thumbs up or just short comments on this paragraph. Does that resonate?
Yes, that resonates.
Okay, Gogo says it resonates. Shireen says not as much. Okay. Okay, interesting.
Wait,
Okay.
what is the bread in the comments? Sorry, I had to
Oh,
get.
we were just talking about how it's kind of funny that the Hebrew word for dream, halom, is chet lamed mem, and it's almost the same letters as lechem,
Lechem, yeah.
chet mem, and so there's sometimes kind of like puns about how are they related. And
Oh, that's interesting.
okay, so all right, cool. Keep going, Sarah.
The famous scene in the film Fiddler on the Roof is a good example of the attitude towards dreams I remember from my childhood. Tevye uses Golda's belief in the power of dreams to convince her that they have received a message from a dead relative, and we, the audience, laugh at her foolishness and gullibility. Placing any weight on dreams is superstitious, and in the rational approach to Judaism in which I was raised, that was no compliment.
Okay, so she's framing this to say that, like, if you think of that scene on Fiddler on the Roof, what was entertaining about it was like, oh, you know, like Golda, like silly old lady, she's so superstitious, we can get her to believe something by like creating this like fake dream sequence, like ha ha ha, like we got her. And for Habiba, who was raised in Westchester, by the way, that was her background, that like dreams are this like superstitious thing that like kind of crazy old ladies might believe in, but aren't like real or something we should care about. Like that she grew up in this more kind of rational side of dreams. All right, cool. Sarah, keep going.
However, in Deuteronomy 13 and the prophets, Jeremiah 23 and Zechariah 10, there is a warning against people who interpret dreams or say that they have had prophetic dreams. The idea behind this, I was made to understand, is that God once spoke to us in dreams, as God explicitly announces in Numbers 12:6, but no longer does. People who think they are experiencing a divine message in their dreams are either mentally unstable or have evil intentions.
Okay,
This
great. So, and again, just to name, like, this could be true for you, this could not be true for you. Some of it has to do with our family, some of it has to do with how we were raised, some of us has to do with like other kind of superstitiousness. And like, I think, like, for me, I'll say, like, I think my mom was always interested in hearing my dreams, but if I had said, like, I don't know, like, this dream told me to like do this very expensive or dangerous thing, like, she definitely would put some rationality into it, but she was open to hearing like the creative side of it. Um, but this for me is very consistent that like God used to speak to prophets through dreams, but like doesn't anymore. So like you don't need to pay attention to it, or just that dreams are just a thing, but they're not necessarily spiritual or not necessarily God. Like they're real. They're just like a kind of place you go and then you come back. Okay, last piece.
This approach is mainstream in classic rabbinic literature. Rabbi Hista, B.T.
Babylonian, yeah, Babylonian Talmud, Brachot.
Babylonian Talmud, Brachot 55b, is an exception when he states how a dream unexamined is like a letter not read, suggesting the letter is from God. In other words, we are no different from our ancestors in the dream realm. Or if we are, it is only on the level of directness of the message, but not in the notion our dreams are communication from a place that would otherwise be inaccessible to us.
Okay, thank you. All right. Other comments and reflections just on the Rabbi Ner David piece.
I'm really interested in like the idea that God used to speak through prophetic dreams. Like I'm curious if we read more texts about that. And like now he doesn't, like what that looks like in text.
Yeah, well, and I think it's interesting also, and we're mostly going to be reading Talmud with some excerpts from both Rabbi Jill and from Catherine, but like the idea that if the rabbis of the Talmud sat around and told each other their dreams and really thought that they had important messages for them, why shouldn't we do that? And or should only rabbis and scholars do that? And you know, I don't want to imply that there's like a chart over here where this is rational and this is mystical, and like maybe we're somewhere in between. But like, because I think there's like rationality is everywhere and mystical experiences everywhere in terms of my worldview. But I am very curious of like, well, what happened to that? And for me, the more I read these Talmud things, which we're going to do in a minute, the more I'm like, let's do it. We should do it. Okay, cool. Other comments or questions before we move on? Yeah, go.
I didn't mean to sound like a total nut job before by saying I was receiving like God's messages in my dream, but but I meant it could have been more a message from my body, like don't take this medication, because it was more of about medication. I don't know. I mean, I can't know. Maybe it was a message from God. Maybe it was a message from my body. I just felt like it was a message, so I sort of like took it. But um. I just meant like I'm not a total nut job, don't worry. I read the Talmud, and actually the Talmud says that it doesn't say like dreams are messages from God. I don't, but a
Yeah,
lot of things in the Talmud are totally crazy.
you're proving Haviva's point, which is
Yeah.
that in our culture, we're hesitant to say that anything is a message from God. You know, I don't know, like I'm
This
like
makes
on
it
my
sound
way
so
to this
dumb.
party that I kind of don't feel like going to, and then I miss the subway, and the next one's not for 20 minutes. I'm like, it's a sign I shouldn't go, right? Like, is it, or did I just miss the subway, right? Like, and
Yeah.
so like I think for me, of all the gifts that I've received from studying imagery and dream work, the being able to trust my instincts is the number one thing that I have achieved.
I really like that too. And I really like trusting my gut on things. So, and trusting my instincts is important to me too.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't mean to introduce myself and sound like I was
Thank you for that reflection, and it's totally fine. I think we have a
I
range of
realized
folks
after I
here.
read that, I was like, oh, that was my first impression I gave everyone. Was I'm
Well,
getting
a lot of
messages
this
from outer
class,
space through my dreams.
a lot of this
The
class is going
aliens
to
are
be,
coming.
well, I hope that everyone here gets to both push themselves more towards maybe receiving prophecy in their dreams and push themselves more to kind of look at the rational side of it. I hope that everyone gets to do both.
Okay, great. Yeah, I do read Daf Yomi too. And although everyone thinks like Talmud is law, it's like no, they talk about demons like every day as much.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Laws of
So this is just to bring you the numbers 12:6 passage so that everyone can see that it's plain as day in the Torah that God explains that speaking to a prophet in a vision through a dream is a way that God interacts with the world, plain as day. And Numbers 2:6, it says, "Hear these words: when prophets of Hashem arise among you, I make myself known to them in a vision. I speak with them in a dream." So there is definitely this connection between prophecy and dreams. By the way, we haven't said this yet when we said what is a dream. And I'm also interested in hearing other people's definitions. One definition of a dream is you are asleep, you see some sort of images. But this could also be a dream. There is such thing as my teacher Catherine would say, we're dreaming right now. There are images coming across the mind's eye that we're not paying attention to because we're staring at this screen. But a dream is any images that are coming across the mind's eye. We just see more of them when we're asleep. And if we do other work together and we do other imagery exercises together, one of the things that we might do is go back into the dream to look more closely at aspects of the dream, and we'll be doing that there'll be options to do that while we're awake, and there'll be options to do it while we're asleep. And there's a funny comment, in case you missed it, Sarah wrote, "Nut job is a societal construct," and Gogo said, "So true." All right, let's look at some Talmud. Something that's quite amazing is almost all of chapters 57, 55, and 57 are these passages of the rabbis talking about their dreams and talking about their relationship to dreams. We're going to read a few of them, and then mostly when we're reading, we're going to be reading the English translation. But since I know there are some Hebrew people who know Hebrew and Aramaic here, I will always provide the Hebrew if you want to follow along there. And if you see something that you're like, ooh, I noticed this in the Hebrew, please speak up. And also, if you are not yet fluent in Babylonian Jewish Aramaic, but you are curious about it, you can always ask, like, oh, I'm curious about what the original word for this is. And also because we can, whether we're together or you're on your own, we can double click on a word and it can bring us to the dictionary. And that's also the benefit of Sefaria. And then the last thing I'll say is, you probably know this from working with Sefaria, but I'll remind you. You see here in our document right now, we're at where it says Berachot 55a:9. See how some of the translation is bold and some of it is not bold? So the words that are in bold are a literal translation. And the words that are not in bold are the translators summarizing the Rashi commentary, the 12th century commentator Rashi, and just other basics to help the reader understand what's going on. Because the Talmud is a record of oral conversations, and they don't always make sense on their own. So just to say, or occasionally, if there's like a pasuk, for example, it in Proverbs 21:1, the Gemara, the Talmud, quotes half of the pasuk, and the translator gives you the rest of the pasuk, gives you the rest of the verse in Proverbs, so that you don't have to go look for it. Okay, we're doing it. We're going to read 55. Could I invite a new reader? Rav Yehuda set. Yeah, go for it.
All right. Berachot 55a9. Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Rav, 3 matters require a plea for mercy to bring them about: good king, a good year, and a good dream. These 3, kings, years, and dreams, are all bestowed by God, and one must pray that they should be positive and constructive.
Okay, so I just paused right there. So what we're talking about here, and we're going to see an example of this later in the text packet, is it's not just you should have a dream, write it down, and then interpret it, but that you should actually pray for a good dream. That part of your going to sleep process, part of your daily prayer process is, may I have a good dream. The same way you say Shana Tova, have a good year, the same way that we pray for a good king, or in my country, that the next ruler be an ethical one, etc. The idea here is that you pray for these things, and they all have different things in common. And then the Gemara gives sources for each of these. Keep going.
Gemara enumerates the sources for these cases. A good king, as it is written, the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord as the water courses. He turns it whithersoever he will. Proverbs 21:1.
So again, this is just uplifting that the thing you're praying to God for a good king, because where does a good king come from? God helps make that happen somehow. Okay, yeah, keep going.
Not our current one, but
well, yeah.
A good year, as it is written, the eyes of the Lord, thy God, are always upon it, from the beginning of the year even unto the end of the year.
Okay, again, they're framing their worldview, all right, and a good dream, keep going.
And a good dream, as it is written, O Lord, by these things men live, and altogether therein is the life of my spirit. Wherefore you will recover me, vata hlemeni, and make me to live.
Okay, beautiful. So, and then basically it's explaining this pun that if you want to look at the Hebrew letters, even if you're not yet a Hebrew translator, v'tachalimeni, the Hebrew word v'tachalimeni, which means to recover me, I want to be recovered, is from the same root with the chet lamed mem as the word halom, dream. So it's saying that this is their proof text that dreams come from God, because God is the one that will tachalimeni, who will recover me. And so isn't that interesting that one of the definitions of the word dream in Hebrew is not, oh, I'm sleeping, I'm passed out, nothing's happening, or I'm receiving prophecy, which, we're going to see other examples of that, but that dreaming is about being recovered. And there's something about recovery that happens through the dreams. And also, this is an active verb. So it's like God is recovering me. So the same way I might say, I'm going to go to sleep and I will feel rested in the morning, I might say, I'm going to dream and I will feel recovered. And then we have this other word, v'tachayeni, and I will be made to live, or enlivened, you could say. All right. So this is the rabbi's proof text on that dreams come from God. Comments, questions before we go to the next one? By the way, welcome, Bev. We're so happy you're here. I will put the handout in the chat, and we are also sharing screen so everyone can follow along. All right. Hi, welcome. Okay, here we go. So we were just talking about how there's this idea, the rabbis of the Talmud think that dreams come from God. Okay. Um, let's see. I'm wondering if we should but this is talking about dreams and prophecy. And then we get to hear a little bit about Yosef. So let's jump down to this other section. Now I'm where it says 55a16. I want to do a little bit more Talmud, and then I'm going to be giving you some instructions for remembering, for asking for a good dream, remembering a dream, recording a dream, etc. Let's just send it to 55a. Could I have a new reader in English with regard to the verse?
Sorry.
Bless you. Do I have a volunteer reader? Oh, yes, Susan, go for it. With regard to the verse.
With regard to the verse, the prophet that has a dream, let him tell a dream. And he that has had my word, let him speak my word faithfully. What has the straw to do with the grain, says the Lord in Jeremiah? The Gemara asks, what do straw and grain have to do with a dream? Rather, Rabbi Yochanan said in the name of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, just as it is impossible for the grain to grow without straw, so too it is impossible to dream without idle matters. Even a dream that will be fulfilled in the future contains some element of nonsense.
Amazing, amazing. And if you look at the Hebrew, again, I know we have a lot of different Hebrew levels here. Kach i'afshar lachalom below devarim batelim. So it's just normal to have devarim batelim, like batal. If some people have heard of the phrase like batal bashishim, something that is what's it called? Is just no longer, it's like canceled out. It doesn't count. If you have less than 1/60th of something, if you accidentally pour some cream in your meat stew, it's nullified. That's the word I'm looking for. It's just totally nullified. It's a tiny amount. And I love this idea, like, i'afshar lachalom below devarim batelim. It is impossible to dream without idle matters. There's always going to be a I'll just give a really quick example. I had a dream this morning where I was at this woman's house, and she was supposed to have given me this menorah, and there were these yellow glass cups in the menorah, and it didn't make sense. Like, why were there glass cups in the menorah? The menorah had metal, and it had wax melted on it. And when I was writing down the dream, I was remembering that some of the glass cups were bigger and some of them were smaller, and that they didn't look like glass, and that when I picked them up, they were glass. Again, maybe some of you are already bored, but because I'm doing this course, I wrote down every one of those details, because again, you just don't know what's going to be significant. The fact that I remember there were 5 glass cups, but within the dream, I thought that there should be 8, even though why should there be 8? Like, they were just kind of funny little tiny details. And we're going to talk about that, and we can call it devarim batelim, idle matters. And especially if you have a recurring dream, and I know there are some folks here who have recurring dreams and know what I'm talking about. Those little details are very, very, very important. Yeah, totally, Julian. It was just the bowls were flat, and they were big, and they were like in a stack, and there was still a full metal menorah. So I don't know. We're not going to go too far there. Go ahead.
Oh, that sounds like the Kabbalistic menorahs, though, the oil menorahs with the glass cups.
Totally. Right. Like, it was somehow, like, in my menorah that I have in my house in Brooklyn has glass cups, but they're small and they're tall. They're not flat. These were kind of like the cups that would be on a Seder plate, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like kind of hard to hard to tell. Okay. So idle matters, very important. We're going to move into a couple of texts that will support us in starting to remember and record our dreams. And I'm going to give some instructions for next week. And then just so folks know, it's 51 past the hour right now. We go till quarter past the hour. We're going to go through these pieces, and then please keep asking your questions. And I will also stay after at the end if folks have questions just about doing the practices or just the course in general. But yeah, keep raising your hand, keep asking questions, and we're gonna pop down to the part of the page that says Pardes. So now I'm gonna be giving you some skills, and everyone should have got this in their email also. So I'll share my screen, and of course I'll share this recording out. But you'll have this as well. So how many people here are familiar with the Pardes method of just text study, of doing text study with like Bible or Talmud? Okay, so maybe like half the group. Awesome. So what we do in the School of Images with my teacher, Catherine Chainberg, is we're actually going to learn how to do the Pardes method of call it exegesis, but also of just textual interpretation. We're going to be doing it on our dreams. So we're not going to be doing it today, but I'm just introducing the basic concept. And this is also why it's really, really important that you write down your dreams. So in a few minutes, we'll talk about how to write it down and the option of doing a voice memo and doing multiple drafts. But for now, we're just going to be looking. I'm just going to introduce the Pardes method so you know kind of where we're going to get to. And we're also going to practice on some biblical stories of this method, which will help us be ready to open each other's dreams. So Pardes originally is a theory of biblical exegesis, a Kabbalistic theory of biblical exegesis, first advanced by Moses de Leon. The term, which is an acronym, sometimes written Pardes with the A and the E smaller, formed from the initials of the following four approaches. Shot, surface, the literal direct meaning. I had a dream. I was in Shira's house. I saw a menorah, right? What's like the basis if you were to like have videotaped it and you're just watching it? What's the thing that kind of everyone can agree on of the basics? Remez stands for hints or patterns or symbolic. That could mean numbers, colors. Again, I have a much more detailed like worksheet on each of these that you'll all get. And so that's what remez is. Drash, that's usually the midrashic meaning. And that could be like, what does it mean, right? So we could have a whole interpretation like, why was Shamirah there? She's searching for light, right? So like in the dream, I didn't light the menorah, but like we already started kind of going there, like, oh, she's looking for glass, she's looking for cups, she's looking for a container for this thing she's going through, a bigger thing. And then sod, by the way, which is also my cat's name. Sod is the secret. We don't always have a sod. Not every dream has a sod. Sometimes your dream, you're running around, you're late for your test, you're nervous for your test. That's it. There's not some big, oh my gosh, the dream means this thing, right? And then sometimes there is a sod, that there's this bigger message that something you're supposed to do or not do. And sometimes we can get there in the group. Sometimes we need to go back into the dream, either when we're awake or we're asleep. But sod is like the esoteric meaning. Again, not every dream is going to have a sod. So when we write them down and we really look at each dream, we go through these 4 levels. Sometimes we only get to the first 2 or 3. So this is where we're going. I just like to present this in the first week also, because some people are wondering, like, what is this class and what are we going to be doing? By week 3, we're going to be trying out some of these methodologies on each other. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to read this passage from Jill Hammer. I'm going to give you some exercises for what to do as you're falling asleep, and then some exercises to do when you wake up to write down your dreams. Could I have another volunteer reader? What is a dream? This is from a 21st century book called Under Torah. Highly recommend. Some of you I know have read it. Who would like to read? What is a dream? Robin, go for it. Thank you.
What is a dream? A dream consists of images, emotions, and sensations that occur in the mind during sleep, often in the form of a story. Most dreams occur during what is known as REM or rapid eye movement, a period of sleep characterized by flickering eye motion, faster pulse, and dreaming. People generally dream 3 to 6 times per night, but many dreams are forgotten. It is said that dreams are more likely to be remembered if an individual awakens during the REM stage. Many have found that their dreams are easier to remember when they establish a practice of recording them upon waking. Recording dreams on a regular basis stimulates our ability to remember them more often and more clearly, but this requires intention and discipline.
Okay, amazing. Thank you. I'm going to pause the screen share for a moment. All right. Let's hear, I'm curious, for folks who do have either a falling asleep practice or a waking up practice that's related to dreams, does anyone want to briefly share something that is already working for them in terms of their dream practice? I'm going to give you some really explicit instructions in a few minutes, but I'm just curious what's already in the room, either is or isn't working for you that you've been trying. Robin, go for it.
So this is and isn't working. I'll have a dream and I often lucid dream also. So when I'm dreaming, I'm aware that I'm dreaming and I'll tell myself, oh, this is a really good, important dream. You should wake up right now and write it down before you forget it. And then most of the time I will just fall back into sleep and not get my like the instinct to get up and write it and like this awareness of oh my gosh, if you don't record this you're going to forget it. It's like I'm telling myself that in my sleep state, but most of the time I still don't get up, and then I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh my god, I remember that I had a dream that felt important and I didn't write it down, and I might remember bits and pieces. Sometimes when I do get myself to get up in the moment, what I do is I actually use notes in my phone and I'll either audio record right then and there the dream, or I'll just type notes and things that, either I'll type out the whole dream or I'll type out like where I was, what I was feeling, who was there, colors, scenes. Like I'll just type out some of the details so that enough of the threads are there that when I wake up, I'll remember it and can, write it out more completely.
Okay, amazing. First of all, thank you so much, Robin. That was really helpful. So, and just to name, like, here's an example of someone who has shared that she's tried it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. There's some self-judgment. And again, thank you for being so open about, oh, like if it was a good dream, like I'll remember it, right? Which we know that sometimes you don't. And then there's like also the second guessing, like, do I really need to write it down? Especially if we wake up in the middle of the night, we're like sleepy, we just want to go back to sleep. And the other thing I'll add, that again, we're gonna look at an example of this. We're gonna actually look at a prayer written in 1698. Is part of this practice is of writing your dreams down is your conscious mind telling your subconscious mind that you want to remember your dreams and that you want to work on your dreams. So if, let's say, for the next week, between now and the next class, every single day you wake up and all you write is just like a bunch of random words like apple, staircase, dark, wooden wall, and that's all you remember, just doing that, again, the Devarim Batelim, these like kind of seemingly unimportant things, that's still your conscious brain telling your subconscious that you want to remember your dreams, and it will lead to your ability to remember more and more over time. And I'm going to give you an example of like a little worksheet where you can type in your draft and then your kind of edited draft. And so, and in terms of the class, like you definitely do not need to bring us more than one edited one per week. And for next week, we're just going to be talking about the experience of writing them. We're not opening any of the dreams next week. So the goal is really just to bring one. And if you have to, record it as a voice note and then type it out in the morning, great. Great. Any other people want to just reflect on what is and isn't working? And then I'm going to give some more specific instructions. Yeah, go. Yeah.
I have like really vivid dreams. Sometimes I can smell things in my dreams, and like a lot of times I can feel things in my dreams, and sometimes um it feels like I can like physically feel things. And last night I had a really vivid dream like that. Um anyway, there are also people that come up in my dreams that I identify with specific things. Like I have a childhood friend who is much, much more politically conservative than me and ended up growing up to work for Trump's immigration department. And when she comes up in a dream, I think she represents Gavora. So I always sort of, she came up in last night's dream. So that's what I sort of identify with her. Anyway, I may have a saved dream thing in my notes app. So I just write it all down in my notes in my iPhone. But also it helps that like I identify certain things with like symbols already. So when they come up, um, like when she comes up, I think, oh,
Yeah.
that's what it means. I mean, maybe I'm being too narrow-minded. Maybe that's not what she
Yeah.
represents.
Well, and also, I'm just going to pause you there. One of the things that we're going to do in this class is look at patterns, right? And so we could have a thing where you tell a dream, and one week that person is in your dream, and it's daytime, and there's a certain emotional valence of the dream. And then there's another time where that person is, I don't know, sitting next to you, and you're eating your favorite foods, and it's nighttime, and it has a totally different meaning.
That's
Same exact
might
person.
happen to me, you're right. So maybe
So
I'm
yeah,
looking at it too opaquely, like
again, it's a process, and we're all learning. So
yeah,
so thank you for sharing that.
the
All right,
notes.
so I'm gonna go to the last two pieces of our class, and we're gonna wrap up at 1:15. So if you look over here, we have we have two prayers that I want to encourage you to choose one to say every night between now and the next time we meet, which is a week from today. The first one is the bedtime Shema. And just to name, there are many, many versions of the bedtime Shema. Pretty much any Siddur you have in your house has a bedtime Shema in it. I actually never say this exact words. I kind of like read half of it and then like change it up to like what I'm actually feeling. I kind of use it more like a prompt. Really, and you could actually write your own bedtime Shema, which is basically like, may I sleep peacefully, may I have good dreams. Like you could just literally say those two sentences and then say the 6 words of the Shema, and that's that. I'm not going to read the whole thing now, but that's the general idea. There's a lot of stuff here also about save me from illness and all of these things. I personally think almost anything that you're saying, praying for something positive before you go to sleep, is going to be a good bedtime practice. Almost anything. I'm going to do this every day for a week. That's gonna really serve you. And then I also have the transliteration here. And then we have She'alat Palom. This I only have in English right now. This is a prayer for dream incubation. What's dream incubation? This is what I was saying before. This is saying, may I have a dream that is a good dream. And this can also be for something very specific. So you call in God, and then this is when you have a specific question. So someone asked before, like, should I follow the instructions of this particular doctor or expert in my life? Should I take this new job? Should I, should I go on this trip, etc.? You ask a question and you're putting the question into the dream. So that's dream incubation. I'm giving it to you here because we're talking about this idea of trying to have our conscious mind tell our subconscious mind we want to remember our dreams. I would say if all of this is very new to you, maybe don't try the She'elat Halom dream incubation just yet, because even in the best case scenario, the answer you get is not necessarily going to be yes. The answer you get still might be floating apple, and then you have to then interpret what floating apple means. So just to name, like, this is not like a one-to-one like question answer. You're still going to get the answers in images, and then you still might need support in those images. Okay, so those are two things that you might try before falling asleep. I'm going to share another document that I know Julian and Sarah you've seen before. That is resources for writing down your dreams. So first, the other thing I want to say is, and I'm going to email this to all of you. Oops, let me stop share. I'm going to email this to all of you. So, and also I'm going to email the recording of this, but I'm going to email you all of these documents. So if you don't have them yet, don't worry. You will get them. I am concerned that my computer is a little bit slow. Okay, here we go. If you look over here, and I'm going to send you a blank version of this. When you write down your dream, some of what you write down might just be little fragments, and they might not totally make sense. Whereas when you, again, I'm going to send this to you. I was trying to change some of the names. When you present a dream to a group, you want to add certain details. And it's really, really important that you do this in writing and not just extemporaneously, because so many of us, when we're telling stories to friends or colleagues or classmates, we just naturally want to make things sound more interesting. And we end up putting things in the dream that weren't there. So as much as possible, you want to also, when you edit it, you also want to put maybe in parentheses or in italics what you're adding. So I'm going to give you an example of an actual dream of mine with names changed, and I'll take you through how I edited it. So everyone can see this document here where it says Jamie's keys. Okay, great. So when I scribbled down the dream, this is what I wrote. Walking and need a car. I text Jamie and asked if I can use his car. Immediately, I'm holding the keys and unlocking the car. We're at the corner of Oak Street where the Rice House is. I'm driving Levy and Jamie and a few others before I head out without them. Levy is worried about arriving home by foot because people will ask him when he walks into his garage why he's not using his car. So that's the whole dream. And I love sharing this example because just as I wrote it there, it's also like, what? Like, why do you even care about that dream? Like, it wasn't some big prophetic thing, but there can be a lot there. So here's the edited version, and you can see some of the things that I've added to both keep as close to the dream as possible, not necessarily to make it more interesting, but again, if I were to like play back a video, what I would find. I'm walking a few miles from my home in Brooklyn where I live, and I realize I need a car. Unclear why or to get where. Again, if in the dream I was like, I need a car to get to Coney Island, I would have just written that. But in my dreamscape, I didn't know why I needed the car. I text my waking life friend Jamie to ask if I can use his car. Parentheses, Jamie doesn't actually have a car, but I used to lend him my car when I had one. Again, now the symbol of the car, of the vehicle that represents movement, and the whose car and the sharing this vehicle that represents movement can mean a lot of different things. And if we were opening it, you might say, well, like, who's Jamie? Like, what's your relationship like, etc. Immediately, I'm holding the keys and unlocking the car. Parentheses, I don't actually see Jamie or have him hand me the keys. It feels magical to have them appear, or it feels totally normal. And of course they disappear. So I gave both of these options for you to, and again, think about things, magical things, kind of fantastical things like, I kind of need a car. now I have a car. Like those things happen all the time. And sometimes within the dream, we're like, oh my gosh, something magical just happened. And sometimes in the dream, we're like, well, of course, the thing I needed materialized immediately. And from the perspective of the dreamer, it is not a fantastical moment. And that could either be because we know we're dreaming and we're like, whoa, or we don't know we're dreaming. And, there could be different reasons. But I think it's important to name when something's fantastical or not. We, Jamie, me, and Levy, a mutual friend, are at the corner of Oak Street where the Rice House is. Now I'm in Lexington. Now I'm in my hometown. A neighbor near where I grew up. I walked there when I was home for Thanksgiving. Zoe Rice was a friend when I was age 5. So now like the whole dream is like in another town. And I had this dream right after Thanksgiving. So there's some connection to that. I'm driving Levy and Jamie and a few others. I don't remember who else before I head out with them. Levy is worried about arriving home by foot because people will ask him when he walks into his garage why he's not using his car. Again, now it's something about Levy. He owns a car but rarely uses it. He parks it on the street. Again, now there's something about the garage. What does the garage represent, etc. So what I'm going to do is in the follow-up email to this class, you're going to see this sample dream. And then I'm also going to share a link to just a very simple Google Doc where you can put in a dream. It's also fine. Again, I'm putting in the chat now, but this will also come in your email. It's also fine to say, I didn't have time to write it down, or I didn't get to it this week. One of the first things we'll do in class next week is we'll spend some of the time reading more Talmud. We'll read a bunch more than we did today. And then we'll also reflect on this, like, how's it going? Are you remembering your dreams? How's the writing going? Etc. And again, I really recommend just writing down, even if it's just nothing. It's just like images, or you could even draw something. And the last thing I'll say, and then I want to take some questions, is if you don't yet have a dream practice, and you're not even sure if you can remember your dreams, as we age, and also if anyone here has had their thyroid removed, our thyroid decreases in function, and as we age, and if you've had your thyroid removed, all the more so, and just that can make it difficult to remember your dreams. And I can also recommend some visualization exercise, whether you are older and your thyroid function is decreased, or you actually had your thyroid removed. I can give you some visualizations to bring back its function in the dream in order to help you remember your dreams. Anyways, what I was going to say was, if the only thing you do is take a notebook, write dream journal on it, and then the date, and put a pen next to your bed, do that every day for the next week, that's one step towards remembering. So I would do dream journal plus at least some version of bedtime Shema. And then next week I'll give some other suggestions as well. Okay, we're going to wrap up officially in 1 minute. I'll take any questions, and then I will also stay after and we'll pause the recording if there are any other more personal questions. Yes, Robin.
I just have some interesting gematria I did while you did the first teaching about halom and halam. So halam, the gematria is 78, and there are 78 cards in a tarot deck, which are all visual images, which are secrets and mysteries that are very dreamlike and archetypal with symbology that are trying to help you receive a message or guidance or answer a question. So interesting that the word dream and the tarot deck have the same numerology. And then the word halom, if you put the vav in it, is 84, and 84 is the transit cycle of the planet Uranus, and Uranus is the great awakener, and it's represented by the lightning flash of sudden insight and inspiration and revelation. So the fact that halom is related to like a life cycle of like awakening is very interesting too. I just thought I'd share that for anybody who's a gematria.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I'm gonna officially pause the recording. I know some people have to go, but I will stay in the Zoom room for the next 15 minutes. And anyone who wants to just hang out, ask an official or unofficial question, get to know each other. Everyone's going to get everything, all the documents in an email. And also just a reminder, if you're not registered, but you want to continue for the other 7 weeks, I hope you will, or you want to invite a friend, you can still join on week 2 and just watch the recording. Make sure you do that. Okay, I'm going to pause the recording.